Hello, and welcome to Enhanced Information Solutions webinar on downtime analysis and OEE entering reason codes into Pi. I'm Jack Audie, EIS's Director of Sales, and your host for this webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all registrants. Here's the agenda for today. First, we'll have a poll followed by an introduction of EIS and today's speakers. We'll then describe eDataSheet, Pi Event Frame Manager, followed by a demo how these products are used for OEE and downtime analysis. Before we get started, here are some Zoom basics. To ask a question, please click on the Q&A icon. We will answer your questions either in the dialogue or at the end of this webinar. At the conclusion of the webinar, you will be presented with a survey. Please complete the survey so we can properly gauge the value of this webinar and your opinions. Our first speaker today is Bryce Lawrence. Bryce, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Jack. Good morning. Bryce Lawrence. I'm the director. I lead our operational intelligence team here at EIS. A lot of experience with Pi and control systems, and hopefully we'll kind of show you something you hadn't seen today.
Okay. And I'm Jack Audie, EIS's Director of Sales and Partner Relations. I have 23 plus years at OSI Soft, and I've actually worked with many of you over the years on this call. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take a quick poll, and we will share the anonymous results. Let me fire up the poll here. So the first question, we currently, for downtime analysis and overall equipment effectiveness, we currently do this with Pi, 0%. We would like to do this with Pi, 50%. We use another system for OEE and downtime analysis, 50%. We use Pi event frames for batch processes, 0, grade changes, 0, downtime events, 1 out of 4. Other, 50%, and not at this time, 50%. We do not use Pi event frames, but would like to for 75% would like to use it for downtime events. We manually enter data into Pi. No, but would like to, 75%, not interested, 25%. We enter comments and reason codes. In Pi, 0. In another system, 4 out of 4. Okay. All right, thank you for participating in that poll. About EIS. Who is Enhanced Information Solutions? We were founded almost 30 years ago in Stillwater, Minnesota, providing MES consulting and implementation services, Pi services, Seek services, OT cybersecurity, and we actually have 3 products. eDataSheet for manual entry data into Pi, Ops Tracker product. It's an electronic logbook with workflow and a complete audit trail. And a Pi Event Frame Manager, newly released. You can create and edit Pi event frames. We're a global company. We're based out of Stillwater, Minnesota, but we have offices in Toronto, Canada, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Dublin, Ireland, Mannheim, Germany, Istanbul, Turkey, and Pune, India. And we do services globally. These are our brick and mortar offices. Bryce, can you talk to our Pi services?
Sure. So our group, our OI group, is built around providing services for Pi system with the idea that we want to be able to take information from the instruments and plant floor all the way up to the ERP, and we build our group around that. And that, of course, includes being able to have team who focuses on industrial networking and OT cybersecurity, because in order to move that data up and down, you need the networks in place, and you obviously want to be able to do that safely and securely as well.
Right, thank you. OEE, well, most of you all know what OEE is. It is a performance metrics, and it's the product of availability, performance, and quality. It's used to measure efficiency and effectiveness of equipment. It's typically expressed as percentage ranging from 0% with no production to 100% with perfect production. And it is used in the industry for driving productivity, reducing downtime, maximizing operational efficiencies. A couple of slides about eData Sheet. It's an EIS product, and it's the idea here. It's a simple, easy to use product to do manual entry of data into Pi. It has a very intuitive user interface with no training required. It's very familiar. As again, it's a spreadsheet for end users. Pi Event Frame Manager, newly released product that allows the manual creation and editing of Pi event frames without Pi System Explorer. Again, this is a very much a needed tool that was required, and typically you had to provide Pi System Explorer to users to be able to edit and create them manually. This tool will allow you to do this. Bryce, could you speak to our functional architecture?
Sure. So this architecture is all based on using an ops tracker application server, and then that uses SQL on the back end for both storing buffering data and also storing configuration. And then all clients talk directly to the ops tracker server, which then communicates to Pi through the Pi Web API. So this allows us to abstract the Pi connection from client users. So the idea here is to allow you to do a distributed architecture, either within your own business network and Pi networks / control network, or even potentially if you wanted to make this available outside of your organization for external entry, it allows a secure way to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to have a demo. We're going to demo the use of these products for overall equipment effectiveness and downtime tracking. We're using this packaging line, and we have several assets associated with it. One impacts the other and how it impacts going down the road. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask Bryce, I'm going to make you the presenter here. And if you can start the demo. Okay.
All right, see my screen all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is eData Sheet. And the concept we're going to go over here using it is, how do we capture downtime events? So we are making the assumption here that you can't use ChatGPT to give you all your reason codes, and you're actually going to need a human to enter some data in here. So we're looking for an easy way to be able to enter reason codes and then assign timestamps so that they match up with the data. And as Jack mentioned, we did this on a packaging line. So this is the client entry to eData Sheet. You can log in using usernames that are stored directly in eData Sheet, or as you can do as in this case, where we hooked it to Active Directory, so that way I can use my login that I use for EIS. And then once you log in, I'm sorry, let me get that right. Once you're logged into eData Sheet, it will take you to where you can pick the forms. Now, In this case, what we did is we set up equipment class around packaging lines. So it does allow you to do class-based with the idea that you can set up a class, set up what the tags are for that class, and then set up forms against that class. So in this case, where I've got two packaging lines, I can create one form that works on both of them. And then at the equipment instance level is where I actually hook the tags to the corresponding AF attributes or pi tags that they need to be connected to. So when I pick an equipment class or a piece of equipment in this case, then I can pick the form that goes with it. Now, equipment here is generic from the standpoint this could be a department, it can be a piece of equipment. It's not enforcing any S88 or S95 hierarchy. And so then once it calls up, you can see that it shows history here. So if I say, well, I really just want to look at 1 day worth of history, then I can see what it shows for today. And the last event I got was when it transitioned everything back into a running state. So our thought on how to do this is to have it create a new column of data anytime any of the states change, and then I enter reason codes around that. So I'm going to just pull over the AF here. So we did a real simple AF model with the idea that I've got packaging, I've got line 1, line 2. I'm going to have status bits that I'm going to write back to, and then in this case, I'm just going to manually use pi tags to indicate trip conditions. Obviously, these could all be hooked to AF analysis, and then also I'm going to use this for setting what the time is. So I'm going to say conveyor 2 is no longer running, and I'm going to go ahead and give this a time. Obviously, I do this for demo purposes, just to make it easy to control exactly when things happen. So I've entered it directly into Pi. So now if I come back to the datasheet, what it does is it has created a new column of data. And the way we're doing this is we're actually pushing data from Pi using the Pi RDBMS interface to create a new row in eDatasheet table. And our thought was, well, if everything's running, you don't need a reason code for that. So it's going to go ahead and push in running, but then it's going to give me an empty slot for anything that's not running. So this is the expectation where a user will come in and pick, okay, what is the reason that's not running? And you can see this is a drop down, and this drop down here is completely configurable, and it can then be used to send back data to Pi. You can either send back the string itself, or you can send back a number, so it can be used in a digital set or an enumeration, which is actually what we're doing. So once data has been selected, you can see it's still backlit white, but it shows me that I've picked data, and I can make a change as much as I want before I hit the save. So then here, when I hit save, it's actually going to write this out to Pi and save the data into the AF attribute where I put it. And we'll jump to vision screen here. Just another note is this is all HTML5, both the client entry tool that you see here and the configuration tool as well. And eDatasheet truly is configured, so there's no code writing, there's no script writing on the back end. Everything's done through menus and selections and just entering the tags into text boxes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and simply pull it up over here, grab over to a Pi Vision screen. Just a sec, everything just timed out on my logins. And then you can, with the login as well, you can determine which pieces of equipment is available in this drop-down list here, and then what forms you can enter data into. Idea being that way, if you've got users who are specific lines, or you've got, if somebody in a county just wants to look at tank farms, you can give them exactly what they need to see. So if I pull up a Pi Vision screen, so just to show, I mean, this is extremely basic, right? But show you that, hey, conveyor 2's down. I entered it. It was an unplanned stop. Again, because this is HTML5, I can go ahead and embed it right on a Pi Vision screen. We're using a very simple control. We pulled off GitHub. It just points to the URL. So now I can interact with it here, as well as seeing what's going on in real time through Pi Vision. So you can see this has a timestamp of 9/21, which is exactly when it showed up in here. You can as well have the ability to allow users to make changes after data's been entered and saved out to Pi. This is done on a form by form basis, so you can determine if you want that to happen or not. And as part of this, eDatasheet does have a full audit trail on the back end. So if I do actually make a change here, and then, oops. If I do actually make a change here and save it out, it's going to track who made the change, what was changed to it. So it's got both the original value I put in, who did that, and the timestamp, and now it's got the new value and who did that and the timestamp. Because obviously on the Pi side, it's got the exact same timestamp that it had before. So you can see here. Okay, so if we jump back real quick to the AF side, then just to show you, so if we use this and we say, well, conveyor 2 stopped, and now we're going to say, well, because conveyor 2 stopped, conveyor 1 ends up stopping. I'll go ahead and change this time again. So now it creates a new row for me with conveyor 1 and conveyor 2 status both. So in this case, I can come back, I can say, well, yeah, this is blocked now because it was saved. It is no longer able to move forward, right? So if I go back to if I go back here, right, I'm going to see what the new entries are that just get put in. And that now I can actually see what, I can keep track of this on Pi Vision. I can move back and forth, right, to see the history as you would expect to on Pi Vision as well. Now I'm going to go back to AF real quick just to set this back with the idea that, once everything's back and I'm good.
Right, Bryce, this is for purposes of the demo. This is normally your Pi system would be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm assuming you're not manually doing all this and you'd have it hooked up, but also I'm assuming if you're looking at this, you know how Pi works, right? So now everything jumps back to running. And if I go back to the data sheet, I should have so it comes back, and this time it puts everything in as running, and I don't have to enter anything, but it shows me, I can keep track of what's been going on as I go through. So the other part of this is typically if you're doing downtime, then you're also going to have events that are tracked with it. So the way we had set this up is the idea you're going to have overall events So you can see these downtime events, and then we're going to have individual events. In this case, we did just conveyor one to show here, which show the individual conditions within the downtime. And then obviously there's possible that the line could be down, and then conveyor one could be down for different reason codes during different times. So I'm going to kind of jump into some of the ideas around that. So one of the other things that may happen is you've got downtime events, you're pulling data in from Pi, but you may also have other data that you want incorporated with that event, which are really only relevant to the event itself. So that's what I'm going to use here. I'm going to use this edit downtime event to show you that. So the concept is here that I am able to use an ops tracker workflow. So sorry, this is pre-canned workflow, and it is actually synchronizing with Pi for both event frames that are active or closed out, and also pulling in AF elements and AF element templates and event frame templates. So in this case, I'm going to just grab a packaging line here. So I've got a whole bunch of events in here, but I can quickly search if I know it's a packaging line. And then if I want to grab our downtime here that we just pulled out, grab one of these. So it will pull in the event. It gives me a start time and the stop time of when the event happened. So this is giving me this information. Now, I've actually got the ability here to make changes to this, and we'll jump back to that and kind of talk about why I might do some of that in a minute. And we also have the ability to allow sign-offs. So every time I enter any data, it's still going to track it. But if I want to have sign-offs, I can do that. Now, this is completely optional. So I can have multiple levels of sign-offs, or I can have none. That can be defined on a step-by-step basis within the workflow itself. So this is what I was mentioning with the idea of, okay, well, I might have some attributes that I want to fill in some data here. And have that be stored within the event frame attributes itself. So in this case, I might say, well, we're doing testing and a work order number is not applicable. But again, the idea is I can go in and make edits to this event frame anytime later, right? Because I might not have a work order number assigned or done anything. And these can be whatever you want for event frame attributes. And as I mentioned, it's actually pulling these out of the template itself. So if I go back to AF and look at the library here for line down, what it's doing is it's specifically looking for AF or event frame template attributes that are going to allow me to enter data. So these are hooked out to Pi tags, so I can't enter data into these, so it's going to completely ignore those. But these, I've got attributes set up. I've got them set as a property for manual data entry, so that's the signal to Event Frame Manager to say, oh, these are pieces of data that you want to enter when you're either creating or editing an event frame. And so now I can come back here, I can save this. As I mentioned, we can do multiple levels of signatures. This, again, is not a requirement whatsoever, just to show that it does have that capability. And so once I've entered the event frame attributes, now I can also identify element attributes. So this is telling me it's looking at line 1, and I've got an attribute here where it wants me to enter data into it. So if you jump back to AF, same concept. So if I look at the element itself, what it's looking at is I've got this one here set to manual data entry property. I've got read only set to false. So those two things tell me that this is an element attribute that I want to enter data in as part of the event frame. So the other thing you can define in here in the configuration is what's the timestamp do I want to use for this element attribute? Do I want to enter the timestamp for the end of the event frame or enter it for the beginning of the event frame? And again, that's completely configurable. So now when I enter it, it's going to enter it, in this case, it's going to enter it the timestamp at the beginning of the event frame. And again, it's going to have me enter passwords, having somebody verify it. And then the next step it's going to do is it's going to come here and show me what is it that I've chosen to enter. And here it's going to is where it's showing me what is the timestamp that it's going to use for that attribute, element attribute that's going to enter out. This step's here on purpose so I can review it. You do have the potential to be able, assuming you set it up in security, to be able to go back, repeat steps, re-enter values. So that way, if there is something that's incorrect here, I could go back, change it, and take care of it before I ever send it out. Otherwise, if I say, well, everything's good, then I can go ahead and enter this in. And now it's going to go, now it's going to take this data and it's going to write it out through the PyWave API out to Pi. So if I go back to my AF, so there's, you can see there's the data that I entered as part of the event frame attribute. So the other place that we've got this is if you come back, obviously, on the PyVision side. Oops, hang on. Oh, sorry. Right here. This is just using the standard event table as well. So one of the things I mentioned was I just got this set up for using editing an event frame. You can also create an event frame and start an event frame and close out an event frame. So you can do that as multiple steps, or you can do that all in one step. So where that might be used is if I come in here and I see, well, this unplanned stop here is got this long time on it. I decided it really needs to be, it was really starting out, it was choked, and then it became an unplanned stop because we had another problem when you tried to start it up. So you could use the edit the event frame to change the start and end time of this unplanned stop, and then I can actually create another event frame and go ahead and give that a start and end time, which is the choked event. So the event frame manager is designed for both creating and editing event frames, and then when you use them in combination, that's what allows you to split up an event into multiple other events. And then the last thing to show is, because we are using events, obviously we can hook that all out. So you could have, simple link out to a report. Within PyVision, I can push out data. I can push out the start and the end time, and then I can have it so I can pull that automatically in. And you can even, because it's SSRS, I can push out other parameters that I want to have in with the report. But the idea is to be able to, give a user somewhere where they can both manage, view all the events, and then actually get to the reports around the events. Okay, so think I'll open that up to questions. Do we get any questions, Jack?
Yes, so we did have, somebody had raised their hand. Pradeep, Kumar, if you could type in your question, we can repeat it here. You had a question or something, but there was one question here. Within eDataSheet, when we're going through within eDataSheet, if I enter in a value, can I enter in comments associated with it?
Yep, absolutely. Start just to show that, and to show as well that if I come in here, I can go enter a comment, I can add a comment. It doesn't have to be the most current thing. So I can come back to something that was entered a while ago, and then whatever the comment is, I can hit that save, and now we'll see it showing up as this has a comment. So you can see I entered something here back on June 5th. This comment will be saved with that same timestamp. Now, you have an option on the comments. We can save the comment only in SQL, which everything gets saved in with eDataSheet, or we can push that out to a Pi tag or an AF attribute as well. So when it pushes it out, in this case to a Pi tag, it's going to give this same exact timestamp for the comment as well. So if you look at that in any sort of report, all the data and all the comments, all the timestamps, regardless of when I entered the comment. And again, because it does have a full audit trail, if somebody comes in and enters another comment and saves it back out, there is an audit trail of exactly who entered what, did what to the comment, and the timestamp that they actually did that.
Good. And let's see. All right, and then from the other question was, if just, this is actually around eDataSheet itself, just straight up eDataSheet. Can you enforce limits entering data into Pi?
Yes, absolutely. So there is the ability within eDataSheet to use, actually, sorry, well, this, there is whether or not you just choose to display it. I didn't choose to display it in this case, but if I try to enter, this is only going to allow 0 to 1. It's going to quickly show me that it's in red, it's out of range. And then from here, I can choose, I can say, oh, whoops, I put the wrong decimal point. And then enter it, and now I'll go back and show me it's in range. Or if I try to save it and it is out of range, in this case, it's not going to like that. It's simply going to tell me, nope, you can't save this because it's out of range. Now, other options we can do with this is we can allow you to save it if it's out of range, but require that you enter a comment. Or we can just simply say, yep, you can save it out of range. We'll still indicate it's in red, but we don't, doesn't matter what value you say. Now, all of these, though, are typed. So in this case, this is a number. So if I'm, you can see if I try to type in text here, it just doesn't take it. So it's not going to let you save the wrong data type regardless.
Okay, good. Let me see. Another question out there was, oh yes, in event frame manager. I said you could manually create event frames, perhaps just manually create them all together, and can we enforce a naming characteristic?
Correct. Yeah. So you can definitely, when you manually create an event frame. So for example, if I wanted to have it be, I'm going to do downtimes and I wanted to specifically have, it's around packaging, I could have packaging line 1 could be required at the front of it and then enter their information. So yes, we can absolutely define what that, put a mask around how you set that up. Otherwise you can, there's another option. Obviously, you can leave it free form as well.
All right, we have another question here. Can we add more reason codes which are tailored to the company?
Yeah, so everything is 100% configurable here. So any of these reason codes here. So if I've got to set this down, yeah, this list I just happen to make up. You can do it however you want. You can also then have different reason codes for each one of these, right? Because each one of these is a tag. They do not all have to have the same list of reason codes. I can have, sort for the printer, whatever. I could have, running out of ink. I can do whatever I want. It's on a per tag basis as to what I'm going to enter in. So that can be mixed and matched as much as you want on a single form.
Okay, good. Well, I think that's all we have here for questions right now. What I'm going to do is let me go back here and all right. So, well, for next steps, if you all are interested, what we can do is we can set up a trial of eDataSheet Event Frame Manager as well as the overall OEE and Downtime Reason Codes application, and any fees attached to that. We have a fixed fee that's attached to that, and that is in fact applied to license fees. Those are either can either be perpetual or subscription. And with that said, we've already gone through our questions. If any other questions come up, please reach out to me, jack@eisinc.com, or shoot me either shoot me an email or give me a call. Again, at the end of this, you will be taking us. There will be a survey presented. I would encourage you to please take the survey so we can gauge the value of this webinar and see and help us to make these more effective. Again, thank you for your time, and that will conclude this webinar. Thank you.